Entrepreneurial Philanthropy. Put the pedal to the metal. Hi everyone, I'm Paige Snow, Chief Philanthropic Officer here at Foundation Source. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're going to talk about an innovative approach to philanthropy. As we discussed in our guide to entrepreneurial philanthropy, which I hope you've been able to download, this mode of giving isn't just about doing good. It's about solving real-world problems. And it's based on a simple premise. The same skills, resources, and connections that made you a success in your professional life can also make you a successful philanthropist. Bill Gates sees this opportunity, and a few years from now, he might be remembered not only as the software pioneer, but also as the man who eliminated malaria. I find a lot of people don't follow his example because they think it would take Bill Gates' level of wealth to do something really significant. But I've seen clients here at Foundation Source with fortunes considerably smaller than Bill Gates do some remarkable things with their philanthropy. Yet I'm often struck by the fact that the most entrepreneurial individuals often leave their business hats at the door when engaging in charitable giving. They don't apply the same principles to their philanthropy that made them successful in their business lives. So for the next 15 minutes, I want to talk about a more ambitious style of philanthropy. Whatever name you have for it, entrepreneurial, strategic, results-driven, this concept isn't about pulling out your checkbook at a charity dinner. It's about solving real-world problems and using every tool at your disposal to do so. In talking about entrepreneurial philanthropy, I want to underscore that there is in fact one right way to do it, and that's your way. You are uniquely qualified to make your own distinct impact on the world because no one else has your ideas, life experience, or contacts. No one else sees the world quite like you. No one else encounters the same issues and challenges in their lives. Your philanthropic legacy is uniquely yours to create. Perhaps the best way to explain the power and potential of entrepreneurial philanthropy is to give you an example of this approach in action. Many of you might recognize this picture of Tom Siebel, the CEO of software company Siebel Systems. Tom developed customer relations management software that he eventually sold to Oracle for the little sum of about $5 billion. As you can see by the remarks he made in an interview with Fast Company, Tom is not exactly a proponent of traditional philanthropy. Right from the beginning, he brought a disruptive mindset to his philanthropy, challenging the status quo. He adopted precisely the entrepreneurial approach that we're going to focus on today. So for our purposes, in this presentation, Tom Siebel will be our Exhibit A. Tom owned and operated several cattle ranches in the state of Montana. Spending time on his ranch, he couldn't help but become aware of the extent of methamphetamine usage in the state. Any of you that watch Breaking Bad are familiar with the drug methamphetamine. By 2005, the meth problem had gotten so bad that Montana was the fifth worst state in the country for meth addiction. Meth accounted for half of all Montana's adult prison population and was indirectly responsible for 95% of all crimes in the state. More than half the children in the state's foster care system were there because their parents were either using or dealing the drug. And the toxic waste that was the byproduct of this drug's production was creating a dangerous and expensive environmental disaster. Every time a meth lab was busted, the cleanup costs were enormous. If you added up both the work-related and social effects of this drug, methamphetamine was costing the state about $100 million a year. It was this context that got the wheels turning in Tom Siebel's head. After talking to numerous people about this problem, Tom learned that the first-time users of meth were young teens who were completely unaware of the risks. This gave him a flash of insight. Meth is just like any other consumer product that people buy. In using meth for the first time, people have to decide whether it's appealing enough to try. So Tom began to look at how he might undermine the market appeal of this product by making teenagers aware of its many downsides. Tom responded to this challenge by creating the Montana Meth Project, which was aimed at reducing teenagers' first-time use of meth by making them aware of the risks. So how did he do it? Well, not by making a grant to a local charity or social service agency, as one might expect. He did it by drawing upon a business strategy he was familiar with: consumer advertising. He hired an ad agency to design an ad campaign based on research on the type of messaging that would have the greatest influence on teens. In the first 2 years, Siebel spent $2 million on TV ads, radio ads, and billboards that depicted the brutal and horrifying effects of meth. His aim was to reduce teenagers' first-time usage. So how did he do? Well, as you can see, the results were pretty spectacular. During Siebel's first 2 years of funding, awareness among Montana teens of the dangers of meth increased from 25% to 93%. Meth use by teens dropped 45%. Montana's overall ranking went from being the state with the 5th highest rate of meth use to 39th. Since then, the Meth Project has expanded to other states with similarly positive results. And the Meth Project was cited by the White House as one of the most effective prevention programs and a model for the nation. I'm sure you'll agree this was a home run. So let's take a closer look at all that went right with this project by breaking it down into steps. Tom chose to work on meth because it was a significant problem in his own backyard that impacted his friends, neighbors, and community. Based on his background and experience, he had an idea of how to fix it. Sounds obvious, but one of the keys to success in philanthropy is to focus on something that fires you up and allows you to use your skills and networks. I find the best solutions come when people choose issues that are close to their heart. Selecting an issue that's affected you personally or that you've seen firsthand is precisely what gives it sticking power. You stay with the issue because it's important to you. So how do you find the right issue? Well, it's really just a matter of noticing what engages your passions and interests. What did you talk about when you last had a meaningful conversation with your friends or colleagues? What do you turn to first in the newspaper in the morning? What stories do you click on when surfing the web? Which ones move or inspire you? Which ones do you forward to friends? Which have tempted you to write a letter to the editor? By paying attention to these real-life moments, you'll find the best choice for you. And by choosing an issue that you come across in your everyday life, you not only may expand the menu of social issues that gain attention, you might even work on an orphan issue that's been ignored or overlooked by other funders. Philanthropists often work on an issue or problem without knowing exactly what they ultimately want to accomplish. Only by carefully defining your endpoint will you know whether you've been successful. Even if you choose to work on an issue that might not get solved in your lifetime, you still need to have a specific, well-defined goal to mark your progress. Before Tom Siebel put a dime out the door, he knew exactly what his goal was: to prevent potential first-time meth users from trying the drug, even once. The idea was to show teens what they were getting into before they ever tried the drug. Before putting money out the door, it's important to get an in-depth understanding of the problem that you want to solve. What's known about the issue? Who's working on it? Before moving ahead with the launch of the Montana Meth Project, Tom got baseline information from a 6-month survey of more than 1,200 people in the state. This research revealed a number of facts about the root causes of the problem. Meth was easy to find. Most of the people surveyed didn't consider it a dangerous drug. Its use was rampant. Many teenagers had friends who were using it, and its dangers were not well understood. Parents rarely discussed methamphetamine with their children. These and other findings from the survey research influenced how Tom developed his strategy. When you think about it, a grant is really a theory about how we think change is going to occur. Often we don't define that theory or make it explicit. It's this extra step that can make your philanthropy more strategic. Let everybody you know poke holes in your theory until you're confident that you're ready to move ahead. Before Tom Siebel took decisive action, He developed a theory about why Montana had developed such a serious drug program. He noticed that both the state of Montana and the federal government were trying to stop the meth crisis by drying up the supply, using law enforcement and get-tough legislation to crack down on dealers. However, that strategy ignored the users, the countless individuals who were fueling the tremendous demand for the drug. Siebel theorized that the most effective way to fight the meth epidemic would be to reduce the demand for it. His solution was to create a prevention program that would deter potential first-time users from ever trying the drug. No meth users would mean no meth epidemic. Tom's background in business suggested that consumer marketing might succeed, whereas the current punitive measures weren't making a dent. He drew inspiration from the American Cancer Society's decades-long PR campaign that communicated the risks associated with cigarettes to the American public. In the same way, Tom figured that if young people understood the risks associated with meth, they'd make better informed decisions about its consumption. If you want to support a social issue, the best bet is usually to look for a nonprofit organization that's working on that issue. This works well if the issue you want to fund is well populated with nonprofit organizations, issues such as homelessness, the environment, or animal welfare. But some problems, such as road rage, which is the example we used in our entrepreneurial guide, don't have much infrastructure in the nonprofit sector. If you decided that your philanthropic goal was to reduce road rage, you'd be hard-pressed to find a nonprofit solely devoted to that issue. There's no nonprofit center for highway madness. So what do you do if you want to work on an issue or undertake a strategy where there isn't a well-developed nonprofit sector? You're probably going to have to also look beyond nonprofits and consider what the commercial sector has to offer. Entrepreneurial philanthropists tend to be agnostic about whether an organization is for-profit or nonprofit. They invest in whatever entity will get the job done. For example, Tom could have gone to a local nonprofit, but because he chose to go the consumer advertising route, he decided that a commercial entity, rather than a charity, was best positioned to raise teens' awareness and influence their behavior. Successful philanthropic interventions are rarely dependent on a single bullet solution. For this reason, entrepreneurial philanthropists approach problems on multiple fronts. Siebel's goal was total saturation of the local media market. He hired top directors to create edgy ad campaigns that reflected what his research had revealed. Because teens didn't think meth was dangerous, his ads portrayed the dangers of meth in very graphic detail. You can see for yourself why these ads grabbed people's attention and got kids, parents, and teachers talking. Right from its launch, the Montana Meth Project was the state's biggest advertiser. Montana's citizens were inundated with the Meth Project's messagings on the airwaves, in their newspapers, and on billboards all across the state. Each of these campaigns, TV, radio, newspaper, and billboards, had their own explicit objective. But the impact of them all, working together in concert, added up to more than sum of their parts. As a result, over 70% of teens and Montana parents either saw or heard anti-methamphetamine ads at least once a week. We've discussed all the wonderful and creative things that can be done with entrepreneurial philanthropy. Now let's talk about the smart way to fund them. If you were Tom Siebel, you could, of course, use a checkbook to pay for everything, from that research on the habits of Montana's teens to the expenses of that San Francisco ad agency. But there's a secret weapon that enabled Tom to pay for all of it using dollars for which he'd already received a tax deduction. He funded everything out of his private foundation. With his private foundation, he could do all sorts of creative things with his philanthropy. He ran his own charitable programs, he paid expenses, he hired staff and consultants, and he donated to organizations that weren't recognized as public charities, such as the ad agency. If he wanted to, he also could have made grants directly to individuals and families who were experiencing hardships and emergencies around the drug. could have made loans, loan guarantees, or equity investments to organizations working on the problem, or he could have even taken his program overseas. Although a private foundation is widely considered to be the most effective, flexible, and enduring charitable vehicle, Foundation Source, we think we have an even better solution. Just as Tom Siebel had an epiphany about how to attack meth use, the founders of my company had an epiphany about private foundations. Having lots of features is great, but they don't do you any good if they're a hassle to use. 15 years ago, Foundation Source set out to make private foundations simple. We've pioneered a complete outsourced solution that does exactly that. We take care of everything from foundation setup to daily operations. And we offer everything foundations need under one roof: tax preparation and filing, grant and expense processing, compliance monitoring, and philanthropic advice. But we don't just make having a foundation easier, we also make it more powerful. In addition to complete back-office administration, we give our clients an online platform to view and manage their philanthropy 24/7, as well as access to our staff of experienced philanthropic, tax, and legal experts. In short, the idea of Foundation Source is to give our clients the capacity and capabilities once reserved for a handful of billion-dollar foundations. I hope you've enjoyed this brief overview of some of the fundamentals of entrepreneurial philanthropy. Given the immense problems facing the world today, there's an urgent need for bold thinking and new approaches. Based on my work with smaller donors over the last 15 years, I think our best hope for those new approaches is not the billion-dollar foundations, the IBMs of philanthropy, but with people like you. I hope that what we've discussed today has prompted you to think about how your unique experiences and skills can translate into transformative solutions. No one else has the same set of resources and ideas that you can bring to the table. I encourage you to explore what those might be. If you'd like more information, please visit us at our website, www.foundationsource.com, or give us a call at 1-800-839-0054. Thanks so much for joining me today.